Today is a very sacred and it is a very special night. When I was preparing for this talk, I think I was imagining that there will be a big moon in the sky. I don't know whether there's a moon now that the clouds have cleared off, and it will be a full moonlight. But it's a very special and a sacred night because it is the night that all of us here, not only here, but our friends on Zoom, far and near, it is a night where all of us are together in one heart because we come here with faith, right? All of us have faith, deep faith. We have deep confidence and we have deep trust in the Buddha's awakening, the Buddha's teachings that brings us so much of happiness. So today, this night, we come together. Let us take our memories down, not only tonight, but let us walk down more than 2,600 years ago on this very night, the same night, in the month of Visakha. The Bodhisattva, Gautama, he sat down on a seat and he faced to the eastern direction with his back to the Bodhi tree, which is the tree of enlightenment. And he sat down with great determination. And the Buddha, and at that time the Bodhisattva, he made this assertion, this determination, because for 6 years the Bodhisattva has been looking to find the answer, how to find the meaning of life. And on this night, he sat on the seat and he said, even though my skin, my nerves, my bones, everything is going to dissolve, even if it dissolves, I'm not going to get up from this seat until I find the answer to what I'm looking for, supreme enlightenment, to find the meaning and purpose of life. So the Bodhisattva sat under this tree, and as we are sitting here, right at this moment, imagine the Bodhisattva sitting down, just like we are seated here. And the first watch of the night, when the mind was calm, free from all lust, clear, steady, free from any kind of impurities, the Bodhisattva recollected all his past lives. And he saw a pattern where he appeared, disappeared, and he came into another existence. And so on with other beings around him. And in the final watch of the night, in the morning, he realized the truth of life, the meaning of life, and how he understood that in order to overcome the sorrow of life, there is the truth, the Four Noble Truths that the Buddha discovered. So on this very special night, friends, as we sit here, let us also make this determination that on this Buddha Day, last Buddha Day, do you all remember what you all did? Anybody can remember? All forgotten already. Got any improvement from last Buddha Day? Got, huh? Very good, because you are here this evening. You're here. That's a big improvement, right? It's a great improvement, right? Yes, and we take the effort to come here. And we are determined to come here. I know many of you have been here from morning and from yesterday, getting the center ready. So this determination, let us also follow the path of the Buddha's determination, that we will also free ourselves from this circle of birth and death. No more death, but the deathlessness. So the Buddha gained, at that time when the Buddha gained enlightenment, he was aged 35. And for the next 45 years, what did the Buddha do? He was tireless. The Buddha, with his great compassion, just now the sisters sang this very lovely song, Compassion, Maha Karniko Nato, the great compassionate one. The Maha means very great. Karuniko is compassionate, the great compassionate one. Without stop, non-stop for 45 years, the Buddha served humanity on the path for deliverance, all of us, until the Buddha himself succumbed to illness and he passed away at the age of 80. For the Buddha himself was a very ordinary being, just like us. He was born a human, he lived a human, and he died a human. He was not a superhuman, but he was very extraordinary. And the Buddha did not claim himself to be a god or even a divine being. But the Buddha, by his very own effort, not only in this lifetime, for those who are new, who do not understand Buddhist history, this being actually perfected himself over many, many, many lifetimes. And this was his final, life, in order to attain enlightenment. And even the Buddha said, every one of us here, every human being actually can follow the same path that the Buddha followed. If we have integrity, we have to rely on ourselves, and we also have to have discipline, self-discipline. These are the ingredients for us to overcome. If we don't have these three ingredients, it's going to be a difficult battle for us. So all of us can strive to achieve this state, but the Buddha only show us the way, and we have to do the work ourselves. So the Buddha is not going to do the work for us. So, although the Buddha did not, after he gained enlightenment, the Buddha did not say, okay, it's going to be very difficult. How am I going to teach all these people from last year until now, no difference? Good lah, but they come back to the center. So the Buddha was thinking, should I or should not I teach? Because it's going to be tough. Huh? But then, this Brahma from the heavenly world came and beseeched the Buddha and said, Lord, Blessed One, he said, there are so many beings with little dust in their eyes. Please, for their sake, please teach the Dhamma. And so, there are those who will understand the Dhamma. And there are so many here in this room. Just by hearing a bit, I am sure you have faith now in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So this great being came and approached the Buddha and said, please, sir, preach the Buddha for the benefit of many beings who have only very little dust in their eyes. So friends, we all have human birth. You know what is this preciousness of the human birth? Is that we can learn. If we are born in the other realm, the lower realms, there's no chance to learn. In the animal realm, can you learn Dhamma? No. In the heavenly realms, also there's no chance, because very happy realm. It's a beautiful realm. Every day there's enjoyment. There's no chance to learn the Dhamma. So our human life is a very precious existence that we have taken. And it is an incredible blessing for all of us. So in this state that we all want, all of us want stability, we want security, we want happiness. Anybody here want anything other than this? You want unhappiness? No, right? All of us want stability, we want happiness, we want security. But what we know is from everything we do, the Buddha said there is this impermanence. But from this impermanence, we can develop ourselves. And why today our theme, just now our host announced our theme to us is yes, going forward with courage and hope. So when or why do we need courage and hope? When we need is when we are faced with difficulties, right? Are we happy? Do we need courage or not? Happy, we all need courage or not? We need hope or not? No need, right? Because we are so happy. So when do we need courage is when we are faced with difficulties, when we are struggling, when our life is so miserable, when we have many inconveniences in our life. That is when we need courage and we need hope. Just like the COVID that came to us. Remember 2 years ago, we all were, shut in our houses. What do they call it? Lockdown, yes. I see, I also forgotten the word already. So fast forgotten the word lockdown. So all of us were locked down in our house, yeah? So it was miserable, not? The government keep extending and say, not another month. Oh my God. I'm going to die. When is this going to end? We had this kind of thinking, right? So when we are inconvenienced, when we are facing misery, when we have difficulties, that's the time we need courage and a lot of hope. So I told myself, everybody is so scared when the COVID. So I told myself, Sister Paru, if you don't die from COVID, you will still die one day, so it's okay. you don't need to be. So be courageous. It's okay. Because if you don't die from COVID, you will probably die from some other sickness, like from heart attack or something like that. You never know. So why you want to worry so much? So that is where courage comes in. And it's like when we have this courage and hope, it's like a dam, a dam. It is built in such a way that it withstands during the rainy season when it starts filling up. The water is rising and rising. It is so steady, it can withstand the force of the water. So courage and hope is like that, to withstand our difficulties and be mindful that despite all this, we still can be happy. We still can be happy. So, in this very particular sutta, the Loka Vipatti Sutta, the Buddha has given us this very, very, very important teaching. And this teaching, the Buddha talks about the 8 worldly conditions, or the vicissitudes of life, the 8 vicissitudes of life. And in these 8, there are 4 paths. So the 4, out of the 8, the first 4 is agreeable, very nice. We like it very much. We welcome it. We are very happy with it, which is fame, we have gain, we have status, we have praise, and we have pleasure. The agreeable 4, we like all this. Then there's the disagreeable, we don't like. We have a lot of aversion. If there is gain, the Buddha said, there will be loss. If there is status, there can also be disgrace. And if there is praise, we can also be blamed. If there is pleasure, happiness, there can also be suffering, and there also be pain. So in this very important sutta, the Buddha has taught that these worldly conditions will come to everyone. Just because you learn Dhamma, there is no exemption that you won't get the disagreeable 4. Everyone in this world, the Buddha said, is subject to these 8 worldly conditions or vicissitudes of life. And depending on, the Buddha said, these spin. The one that is disagreeable, it spins after them, after the world. That means it spins after us. But if it is the pleasant one, then we spin after the agreeable 4. Don't you agree? Right? We want fame, right? So we go after fame. We want happiness, right? So we go after happiness. Correct? But we don't want the other, but that one will come swirling to us. It will come after us. So it is these 4 agreeable and disagreeable. And then the Buddha taught how we are going to manage and overcome. If we are faced with the 4 agreeable conditions, we are very happy, no problem, we can manage it very well. In fact, we like more of it. We welcome more of it. But what happens if we have the disagreeable 4? Then the Buddha has taught us about this, practice, or this factor called equanimity, where although these 4 disagreeable conditions come to us, how we can overcome and carry on living until we become able to withstand such kind of difficulties. And in this, Thanissaro Bhikkhu, he is a monk, and he describes equanimity as such. He says, equanimity is defined as an attitude of even-mindedness in the sort of experience, regardless of whether it is pleasure or pain. And when we have equanimity, we remain balanced. That means when we have either disagreeable or whether it is agreeable, we are very balanced. The mind does not hanker after the agreeable four, or it's not averse to the disagreeable four. So he describes it as an evenness of the mind. The mind it is a factor of the mind, a condition of the mind, a state of the mind, where the mind is very stable. It is able to check itself. So the Buddha himself, when he was a bodhisattva, did you know that he perfected himself in this equanimity? He has 10 perfections, right? You have heard that the Buddha has perfected 10 perfections. So in this perfection of equanimity, did you know the story of how he perfected himself? Yeah? So in this, once the bodhisattva was born in his past life, he was born into a very wealthy family and he was very well educated. And then one day, when his parents passed away, the bodhisattva actually did not want to carry on looking, because the family members say, oh, you must look after the wealth, you must take care of it, and there were so many things to take care of. He was not at all interested in taking care of this wealth and acquiring more wealth, because he was not drawn to this. So he said, okay, if I give away all this wealth and I become an ascetic, then he will become very famous, because people will know, hey, this very famous person actually gave away all his property and now he has become an ascetic, right? So he will have fame associated with this. Then he didn't want to be associated with fame. So he wanted to test himself to make sure that he remains unshaken by the vicissitudes of life. That is, what did he do? He left the house. He did not take a single thing except the clothes he was wearing. And he went out to the world. And he traveled from town to town, from village to village. And he will spend a night or two in each village or each town. But the places where he would spend the most number of days or time is where the people treated him badly. They insulted him, where they gave him a lot of difficulties, or where they scolded him. He will stay longer there, because he wanted to test himself to see how he will respond to the difficulties imposed by people on him. So there was a time he came to a particular town, and in that particular town, he was very badly treated, especially the children. They used to spit at him, take sticks and wallop, because he never responded. This bodhisattva, he never responded. Anybody do anything, he's very calm, he's very peaceful, because he wanted to test himself. So people took advantage of him, and the children were ill-treating him. So after a time, he went to the cemetery, the graveyard, and he lived there. So while he was there, he was being mistreated. After some time, the adults found, actually, there's something very special about this person. He never responds, he's very calm, he never scolds anyone. He just lives by himself, harmless. So they told the children, please don't hit this man anymore. He seems to be a very wise person. Actually, I think he is very wise, and he is somebody very special. So next time when you see a beggar, clothes all torn, please don't say, this is maybe one bodhisattva practicing equanimity. Yeah, because I remember when we see, people who are very poor and begging, and we have a lot of aversion for them. So when I was reading this, I said, wow, I must remember that we do not have this kind of thing. Maybe, we never know, there could be a bodhisattva practicing for enlightenment, to overcome, practicing their perfection. So, even when the people treated him badly, he remained equanimous. And even when the people praised him and started to pay respect to him and reverenced him and, paid attention to him, also he remained equanimous. He was not happy that people were starting to take care of him, or he was sad that people mistreated him. So in this way, the bodhisattva, having the same attitude, he perfected his perfection of equanimity. So by this, friends, in this, just now the sutta that the Buddha has introduced to us, which is the Loka Vipatti Sutta, the 8 vicissitudes of life. So there are these two kinds of people in this world. The first is the uninstructed, or the Buddha said the run-of-the-mill people who don't learn the Dhamma, who got no access to Dhamma, or who don't have this kind of knowledge. So if these people who don't have knowledge, or don't know, avijja they call her, they don't have the knowledge, and how do they respond to these 8 vicissitudes? So human beings, we like, we are inclined to practice the Dhamma when we no longer have disagreement. When we're happy, we can practice the Dhamma. So if there is a person who does not have knowledge of these 8 vicissitudes of life, how do they respond to these 8 vicissitudes? Let's have a look. So the first thing is, they don't even recognize that it is actually the 8 vicissitudes of life, right? Before we learn Dhamma, do we know that we have, let's say we have a COVID. Let's say, for example, we have COVID. Do we know this COVID is actually very, now we are actually experiencing the 8 worldly conditions? Do you think you will know that? Do you think you will know? If, let's say, your girlfriend left you, do you know you're actually experiencing the 8 worldly condition? No? What do you say? Oh, my girlfriend left me, or my boyfriend left me, I'm so sad, how am I going to live? Why did she leave me? We go on this. But when we know the 8 worldly conditions, we say, oh, now, like when the COVID come, I say immediately, oh, I'm experiencing one of the 8 worldly conditions, or the vicissitudes of life. That is, now we are having pain. Because we cannot do what we want to do, we cannot go for holidays, the children go to lost out on their university, we cannot go for a walk, we cannot do many things. So there is a lot of pain for us. So immediately I can recognize, there's one of the 8 vicissitudes that I am experiencing now. But the run-of-the-mill person, or those who do not know about these 8 vicissitudes of life, they don't even know there's such a thing, but they will only look at their problem, what is going on in their own lives. The second thing is, he does not reflect and he does not practice. Because they don't know that there is these teachings called the 8 vicissitudes of life, then they don't reflect. What do they don't reflect? That is, I am actually experiencing this condition in life. And how can I remain equanimous about this? And they don't, and when we are not mindful, because when these things come, when we are not aware of that is happening to me, you only think of the problem. Then you don't think that this is actually something that is happening to me. How do I overcome this? So there is this, we are not mindful, we do not reflect, we do not practice. But rather we stand to complain. Why the government do like this? How come so long they close us down? How am I going to not see my parents? And so on and so forth. So we don't reflect on what is actually happening before us. Then thirdly is, we understand that the nature, what is the nature of these vicissitudes that we are going through? Impermanent, right? So after 2 years, what happened to us? We're all back together, right? But then in 2020, what did we all do? We all groan, right? Moan, right? How we cannot have this Buddha Day. We cannot come together. It's very difficult, right? But did we think, it's okay, this too will pass. It is going to be impermanent. This thing is changing. Everything is changing. It will change. But it took us 2 years. This impermanence to change from COVID, from pandemic to endemic, took us 2 years. But we are lucky, right? Because people in Shanghai now, what happened to them? In China, still under lockdown. So we are happy or not? Happy. So we can see that if we are not, if we don't have this uninstructed, then we will keep on suffering, because we do not understand that things will change. Any time it can change. Even if we think the COVID is over, do you think it's over? Something else can come, right? We never know. Also impermanent, there can also be change. And what is disagreeable instead of agreeable? That means, for example, it can actually be agreeable, no? Like we can reflect. Actually, I'm not the only one suffering in the world. We thought we are the only one suffering, COVID. Do you think you're the only one suffering? You think so, right? But but there are many, many people suffering in the whole world. Then on top of that, you can see all the health workers, they're actually putting their life at risk, right? Did you think how their families would have suffered? You don't know, they could also be a victim. They could be the quickest victim because they are working so close to all these COVID patients. Did we think of all the, the poor people who did not have food, did not have access, they lost jobs? So we can know that sometimes it can be agreeable, but we make it very disagreeable because we do not reflect, we do not practice, and we do not even have knowledge of this. So this is one of the ways that we can remain equanimous. And on top of that, we become very agitated, we become very obsessed, and sometimes we become even tormented. These kind of things that torment us. People, until they have to, they can run out at night, they can go out and have parties, go somewhere, hide, and then the police have to catch them and then find them, and all these kind of things, because they do not know how to remain equanimous in terms of when the problems come to us. And also, you remember some people where even when they wear the pink band, you see them walking around, right? So it shows that they don't care about others. So these are some of the habits or the practices that those who are uninstructed, if they are faced with this. Now what happens if it is a disagreeable? If the uninstructed person, if it is agreeable, the thing is good for them, nice. What they do? They are engaged, they desire more and more of it. And then they perpetuate, they want it to stay with it. They don't want this thing to go away. They want it more. And then they always want more praise, they want more acclaim, they want more status. They do not want to lose it. So this kind of people who are uninstructed, this is what will happen to them. And they increase their status, they gather more fame. Not in order to keep what they want, they also get more support. Brother Ajit, come and join me. How we can work together to make each other more famous. So this is how when we are, how we can make more money. Now got a lot of suffering. You know what people did? They go and buy all the toilet paper. And then nobody else, all toilet paper run out of stock already. Then some people even hoard their masks. There were people who actually started hoarding masks and see how we can make money out of the suffering of other people, even when there is agreeable. What happens if it is disagreeable? When the situation is disagreeable, what they do? They are filled with a lot of aversion. They're not happy, disagreeable. Now it's disagreeable. What they do? They believe that now they say, who is the one who caused me this kind of suffering? They don't look at themselves. They say, who did this to me? Who to blame now? I blame the government? I blame the minister? Or do I blame my neighbor now? So we can also blame people for our disagreeable. And we have a lot of negative thoughts, we have despair, and we have worry, and we also have a lot of fear. Did you have fear during COVID? Don't bluff, All got fear, right? We got a lot of worries, right? Did we have a lot of negativity? Even to choose vaccine, we got a lot of negativity, right? True or not? Very good. Cannot tell lies, Buddhist. So during the Buddha's time, there was this lady by the name of Visakha. Okay, so she always goes to the monastery to see the monks and also to give dana and do whatever that is necessary there. So one day when she went to the monastery, she left her coat, and that coat was very expensive. It was a very expensive coat, and she left it at the monastery. So when she came back, she gave it to the maid, and then the maid forgot and left it in the monastery. So when Lady Visakha found that this coat was left there, she asked the maid to go and see whether it is still there or not. And the maid said, yes, it is there, but Venerable Ananda had taken it, one of the monks, Venerable Ananda, had taken it and kept it in the cupboard. So she said, in this case, where the monk has already touched this thing, I don't want to take it back, she said. So she went to see the Buddha and consulted the Buddha. What can I do with this money that I want to sell this coat? And what can I do with the money? And the Buddha said, why don't you build a monastery for the monks to stay, because the place where they're staying is a bit small. So she did that. But there was nobody who could afford to buy that coat because it was a very expensive coat and there were not many rich people there. So what she did is she bought the coat herself. She bought it. So what she did, she took the money and she actually, built a monastery and dedicated it to the Sangha. But what is good about Lady Visakha is she did not scold the maid, because the maid is the one who left that very expensive coat in the monastery. Instead, she told the maid, she said, thank you so much. Thank you because you left the coat there. Now I got opportunity to do this good deed. Imagine if today your maid do that, what will you do? You give her one slap and said, why you do this? But Lady Visakha was very wise, She said, thank you so much, because of your forgetfulness, I have opportunity to do dana. So when a wise one, they have these vicissitudes disagreeable, it can be turned into an agreeable, is the way we look at it. Now what happens if a person who is well instructed, who knows, what happens to them when they meet with the 8 vicissitudes of life? So he is not, because they know that there is these 8 vicissitudes of life, they are not thrown off balance. They can reflect. So the first thing they do is they recognize. Correct or not? If you know that these 8 vicissitudes of life or 8 conditions of life we are experiencing at this very moment. For example, if one of our loved one passed away, we are very sad. Just recently there was an accident. 5 young boys were burned to death in a car. Imagine how the family will feel. They will be so sad, right? So if we are experiencing that kind of thing, we know, yes, now this unhappiness or this sorrow has come to me. I am now facing these 8 worldly conditions. So you recognize that you're actually facing this 8 worldly condition. Then you become very mindful. So during the COVID, instead of, we lose jobs, some of us, even family members passed away, we can't even see them. We can't even see and bury them because it is so contagious. So the government will actually do the burial for them. So if we know, we have become mindful instead of crying and feeling sorrowful and regretting, why this thing, why me, why. Then we become very mindful. He said, yes, now I'm experiencing this worldly condition that is come to me. So we become equanimous. Then we reflect and we know this thing will change. It is subject to change. When I'm happy, it will change sometime. When I have difficulty, if I lose my job, I know maybe within the few months I may not be able to find a job. But somewhere I will still find a job. So we can always know that this thing will not last forever. Correct? Have any of you experienced this? When we lose a job, we will find a job somewhere, right? And they understand that this experience will come to pass. It will pass. It will never stay for nothing, stays forever. Even our own body. Is it the same from last year? Feel older? Feel younger? After the vaccination? So, now what happens if a well-instructed person, one who knows, whether it is agreeable or disagreeable is the same. In the previous case, we see agreeable got different. Disagreeable got a different way they look at it. But when a person is well learned, they know how to manage themselves, whether it is a disagreeable condition or whether it is an agreeable condition, it is the same. What do? They will not mind remain consumed. The mind is not consumed. They do not have this kind of thoughts going on. Oh, this thing has happened to me. How can it happen to me? How can he do this? Or how can she go here? You know, there are many this kind. When we have good or bad, we know. We remain equanimous. And then we pay attention and we question. Actually, when these things come, we question ourselves. Actually, why am I feeling so scared? You know, when the COVID, many things were happening, I always question myself. Why are you so scared of die one? You know? Why do you think like this? Why is it so difficult to make a decision? Even a vaccination, so difficult. Everybody start going and putting their names in. I take very long. No? I think, how this vaccination can trust? How I die already? How the vaccination after I become mental? How? You know, all these kind of ideas will come to you. So we question ourselves. Actually, why I think like this? Why am I not thinking like this? So we question our thinking. And we understand and we abandon the suffering. And we welcome, all this welcoming. When good, we like to welcome. We say, yeah, I like this. But when it is not good, what we do? Rebel. I don't like, I don't want. Why like this? How come it's like that? Why it cannot be like something else? So we have this equanimous mind where we don't welcome, nor do we rebel, but we stay calm. We are very stable in our thinking, and because we are stable, we are also able to help other people around us. If we ourselves are running here and there, we also cause difficulties to others. So one day there was this lady, she was offering food to the monks. And Venerable Sariputta and some of the monks, she was offering the midday meal. While she was offering the meal, somebody came to her, a servant came to her and gave her a note. Then she opened the note and she read, and then she put it into her pocket. And she continued serving the monks. While she was serving the monks, her maid, who was carrying a big pot of ghee, you know, the oil, ghee to serve to the monks, it slipped from her hand and it fell on the floor, and the whole thing broke, and all the ghee was spilled on the floor. So Venerable Sariputta was very caring, so he consoled this lady and said, oh, don't worry, you know, it's this thing is bound to be broken, it's okay. So he tried to console her. He said, it's okay, it's never mind. Then she turned to Venerable Sariputta and she said, Bhante, I'm not worried about this ghee that has fallen and broken, you know. Actually, just now, I received a note that my husband and my sons were killed. They were killed because they had gone to war. And I've just received a note saying that they had died already. But she was so, she did not start screaming and rolling on the floor, but she was very equanimous. She was very centered, she was very mindful, and she continued serving the monks. So with her practice, you can see how the practice of this person, that even though she received such bad news, she was able to continue because she knew she could not do anything. There's no way she's going to bring them to life. What she can do is to continue what she was doing and then take care of matters after she had finished the dana. So when we have a well-instructed person, a disciple who knows and learns the Dhamma, then we can manage our matters equanimously. So friends, when we act with integrity, this equanimity by itself, it does not stand by itself. You know, it is not something that is by itself that we can have equanimity. It has to be supported by other factors. Okay, it doesn't stand on its own. So the first factor that supports equanimity is we have integrity. What is this integrity? When we practice and maintain our moral, daily moral standing, then even if people accuse us of telling lies or telling, wrongful speech, we know We know very well that we will never ever utter such speech. We know that we will never take other people's property. We know we will not indulge in, corruption. We know we will not misconduct ourselves. So when we have integrity, equanimity is always supported by integrity. That means we have principles in our life. We know how to take care of ourselves. So this is one of the factors that support equanimity. That means we are not shaken because we know what we are doing in our life. For example, if we don't go and kill because we are jealous, we know we will never do that because we have integrity. Then second one is we have confidence, we have faith, and we have conviction in the Buddha's teachings. So when we have faith, we know that what has the Buddha taught us, everything is impermanent, right? Things will come and go. When we are born into this world, we know we will one day grow old and we will get sick and we will die. So when we have faith in the Buddha's teachings, the Buddha's enlightenment, and what the Buddha has taught us, we can understand, yes, there will be old age, there will be sickness, there will be death. So we have faith in the Buddha's teachings. Then the third factor that supports us is we have insight. When we develop our mind, in the Buddha's teachings, there is these three factors that we do. That is, we have generosity, sila, we have samadhi, and we have wisdom, panya, these three. So when we have insight, when we are able to see that this is the nature of life, life is like that one. It cannot be what we want it to be. Life is like that. If we grow old and we get sick, that's how it will be. If our parents are old and they are sick, there was one time somebody was telling me, hey, my grandmother died, and the grandmother was 90 over years old. She said, I'm so sad, my grandmother died. I said, why are you sad? She said, because I cannot see her anymore. I said, do you know your grandmother is very happy to go because she got a very suffering body. She's so sick. The grandmother is very sick. She wants to be released from this body, She doesn't want this body anymore. But here she is feeling so sad that the grandmother, 90 over years old, she wants her to stick around just because that she can see her. I say, your grandmother is so old already. She needs to go and rest her body, So when we have a developed mind, we understand that is the nature of our life. And we have well-being. When we have family well-being, when we have career well-being, when we have social well-being, all this well-being contributes to our equanimity. Imagine if we don't have family well-being. How to be equanimous? So much a problem in the family, quarreling, dislike, anger, hatred. When we have all this, we don't have well-being, then how can we how can we practice equanimity in our life? So one of the factors that supports equanimity is having well-being in our lives. Well-being can be many different types of well-being. Even enjoying a cup of tea, even sitting down and enjoying sunset. Sunset? I think nowadays nobody enjoys sunset. Huh? Got or not? I'll enjoy TV, Netflix. But if you can sit down and just enjoy a nice morning sunrise or an evening sunset, and just be with nature, even to feel the wind on our body, all this kind is actually well-being, where we are one with nature, instead of always having all these difficult emotions within us. And also, when we have these very negative reactive tendencies, we like to react. When we look back, when we were younger, there were things that we react very fast. But now, what we do, we grow older already. The same thing happened, but what do we do now? We observe, we see carefully, and sometimes we may not even respond. But when we were younger, we respond very fast. We get angry very fast. We use our speech very fast. Sometimes our body language also is not, pleasant. But as we age, or as conditions change, as we know, then we see that actually there is difference in us. So we don't react. We give up these negative tendencies to react. So we see many things. Actually, last time we get very upset. Little things will get upset. But now we are not so upset anymore. We just, okay lah. It's like this one. You say, never mind. I listen only lah. God, do we experience this kind of things? Last time we get very fast. We get angry with things. But now we hear, we say, okay, whatever. I listen only lah. Like my children is like that also. When last time we little things they do, we get very angry with them. But now we just tolerate. We say it's okay. We put up with it. It's okay. So we have these tendencies to overlook these kind of reactive tendencies that we have. And so equanimity also has got some little enemies here and there. Sometimes we think we are equanimous, but actually we are not. We think we are equanimous, but we are not. So what is one of the things that is not equanimous is when we are indifferent. What is this indifference is we suppress our emotions. Sometimes we think we are equanimous, but it is based on fear. The indifference is actually we are very fearful, but we pretend we are not affected by it. Or sometimes we withdraw, we withdraw from the experience, and then we are just very indifferent. And we think we are I'm equanimous, I don't get affected. Actually, it's indifference. It is not equanimity. And then we have this apathy, where we are lack of feeling, emotion or interest or concern about others. It can disguise itself as equanimity. We think we are equanimous. Actually, we have apathy. We're just not concerned about them. We just, whatever they do, we don't care. It is our loved ones, but we have a lot of, it's not equanimity, it is apathy. And then we have this give up. Do we experience this? Where we give up, where we make no effort to allow ourselves to be, and sometimes it becomes an addiction, We give up until it becomes, we are addicted to something else. Because we don't want to deal with it already, so we become addicted to something else. So this is also one of the enemies of equanimity, which is giving up, not doing what we are supposed to do. And also being cold or very distant. Sometimes we just detach ourselves. We thought we are actually equanimous. We detach, and then we are not friendly. We are like kind of preoccupied. But we think we are equanimous. But when we say we are equanimous, then it is born of wisdom. The rest, all indifference, whether you have apathy, whether you are giving up, or when you are cold and distant, all these, you'll see the base of it is the three roots. That is, we are either we have greed, we have aversion, or we have delusion. But when equanimity is based on wisdom, that means we can see and we behave in such a way that it becomes very steady. We are very aware of what is happening. So in these divine abidings, the Buddha said, all beings, sometimes we come across situations, and in this equanimity, the Buddha has said, all beings are owners of their karma. They are born of their karma. They take refuge in their karma. But we cannot say everything is due to karma. When we say everything is due to karma, or you did this because then there is karma, because of karma, it's a result of karma, or something you have done in the past, that kind of view is actually not right view. It is a view, but it is not right view. Because when we talk of karma, there are many other factors involved. Like, for example, there is the mind, there is nature, there is the seasonal changes that comes together with it. But what here the Buddha is trying to tell us that when we are the owners of the karma, when we are heir to our karma, it means we can have choices to make. We have choice. we can do things that can change. So we can behave in such a way that can bring happiness rather than difficulties to others. So when we are faced, for example, right now, we see there's a war going on in Russia, right? There is difficulties in Sri Lanka, right? People are facing a lot of economic difficulties. We see the suffering of these people. We see so many stories coming out of that. So when we reflect on this, we say, this is that, just like this, that is, everybody is the owner of their karma. All beings are owners of their karma. Whatever comes to them, they have to bear the difficulties that come to them. And 2 weeks ago, I received a call from my sister-in-law, and she told me, I got some bad news for you. I said, really? What is it? Then she said, so one of our cousins, she said, has passed away. Oh, I said, really? When is her funeral? She said, her funeral over already. I said, over? Today only you tell me? She said, no, actually I got something very sad to tell you. I said, what happened? She said, she is staying alone in a house. Although she has got children, she's got sisters, she refused to go and stay with any of them. And at that particular time, she actually hurt her leg already, so she couldn't walk, and she was in the house. She was resting in the house. She didn't go to work. And then her sister called her and said, please come and stay with me. Since you can't walk, I will take care of you. She said, no, I can take care of myself. I will stay in the house. Children asked, she refused to go. After 8 days passed by, nobody called her. And you know what happened? She just died. She had died, I think, she said most probably about 10 days. After 10 days, her friend found her sitting on the chair. TV is on, lights are on, fan is on, everything is on. Her whole body had already, rotted. Eyes were all just hollow. And she was just died like that. So when she told me, I was very sad, because when we were young, we all used to play together. We used to stay together. We did a lot of things together, and I felt very sad. Then I reflect, yeah, it's right. The Buddha said, all beings are owners of their karma. They are heir to their karma. They live supported by their karma. Even though she had good conditions, people asked her to go and stay. She refused to go and stay, and she had to pass away like this. And I reflect on that. It's very true. And then there's not much pain, because I can see that is how life is. 50 years ago, when my brother passed away, he was only 22 years old. His wife had just given birth to a child. He was only married about a year plus. And he died in a motorbike accident. When he died, for years and years and years, I could never get over his death. I always used to go back and visit the same incident again and again and again, because I never knew about these teachings of the Buddha, about the 8 vicissitudes of life, about equanimity, about karma. I never knew. Every time I think of him, I will suffer, I will shed tears, and I will relive that memory of his death and how his wife suffered. The baby was so small. I take the suffering of them and put it on myself, and I suffered very much. So with that, we can see, friends, when a person suffers, we often ask ourselves, happiness is in our own hearts. So when a wise person suffers, we ask ourselves, how can I get out of this suffering? This is how a wise person questions himself. If I'm suffering, how do I get out of this? Who can help me? And then we say, what have I done for myself to get out of this? This is how a wise person gets out of suffering. But what happens when a person who is foolish, who doesn't know, what do they ask? They say, who has wronged me? Who is the victim, and I'm the victim of wrongdoing? How can I blame? Who can I blame? And how I can punish them who have caused me this suffering? See how a wise person looks at suffering and a foolish person. So it's like this. When equanimity of the mind is like this, it's like a mother, mother got children. Equanimity is like when the children have all grown up already. After they have grown up, they can take care of themselves. Whatever they do, we are okay with it. That is equanimity. The mother knows, it doesn't interfere. We accept and we understand that the child has already grown up, they have married, they have their children, they know how to. So we are very equanimous about it. And it's just like a grandmother. So she got many grandchildren. And she looks at all the grandchildren, all got, some got different pattern one, different chora one. But she's very equanimous because her experience of her children, she also knows the grandchildren are like this. So equanimity is like that. When we are gone through, we understand, our mind is more steady, we are able to overcome the difficulties that happiness is easy for us to handle. But when we have difficulty, that is where we get into trouble. So when we have this equanimity, we learn to be equanimous, we learn to be steadying our mind, we are very mindful, then whatever problems we face, whether any challenges or any difficulties, then we have a lot of courage and hope because we are able to remain equanimous. So, I would like to leave you with this teaching by the Buddha, where the Buddha says, even though you hold the hem, the Buddha's robe, you hold on to it, and then you go everywhere with the Buddha's robe, you walk behind. But the Buddha said, if you remain conceited, if you remain, full of covetousness, greed, if you have fierce, you're very fierce, you're very greedy, you're very materialistic, and you have a very corrupted mind, very unrestrained, the Buddha said, actually you're very, very far away from me. Okay? And the Buddha said, one, because he does not see the Dhamma, because we do not learn the Dhamma, we do not see the Dhamma, then the Buddha said, you cannot see me. But on the other hand, even if you live far away from the Buddha, but you have a very kind mind, you are very, you are very, the heart is very calm, it's very kind, it's a very giving heart, giving mind, then you actually become very close to the Buddha. Because, why? Now you see the Dhamma, and then you can also see the Buddha. So it doesn't matter whether you're very far or very near, like Zoom very far. We are very close to the Buddha here because we are in the center. But it doesn't matter because our heart matters. How calm we are, how kind we are, how our minds is able to overcome the greed, the aversion, and the delusion of our hearts. So with that, friends, I leave you with our practice that we will always move forward with courage and with hope. Whatever difficulties that come to us, remember to remain calm, to remain balanced, and also remember that there are many more beings that are more difficult situation than we are in. So we have this hope and this courage within us to move forward with equanimity. With that, Namo Buddhaya.